What's up, guys? Welcome back to Everyday Money. All over the place, people are going to tell you that you have to have a budget. You need to have a budget. Everything needs to be written down, your income, your expenses, and whatever. And I got to tell you, I hate budgeting. I hate it. I hate writing down all that stuff. It takes a lot of time. It's tedious, and I just don't do it. One of the big reasons is because my income is never the same month to month. So it's hard for me to be able to wall off certain amounts of money and have like every single dollar accounted for in advance and set this budget when I don't really know exactly how much money I'll be bringing in, every month. It could be thousands of dollars of difference between, January, February, month to month. It's completely different. And to be honest with you, I just do not like making a budget. Now, this flies in the face of what most financial advisors, most financial people say, is that you have to have a budget and you have to stick with that and have those walled off amounts of money for you to spend every month. But I just don't do it. One of the big reasons also is because if you have those budgeted amounts of money just set aside, it could feel like you almost have to spend that money, or you are entitled to spend that money because you have it budgeted in. One of the bigger examples of this I saw was on another YouTube channel called the SV Delos. It's a sailing channel where they sail all around the world, and they had budgeted X amount of dollars to spend a month, and I think it was around $3,000 or so, and apparently they were exceeding that easily, and that money just wasn't able to last with their budgeted numbers. So instead of using a budget, they just tried to control what they spent their money on and thought about everything that they were going to buy. And this allowed them to cut their expenses dramatically down to, I think, like $1,000 or $1,500 a month total expenses to operate this sailboat. And what the guy that runs the channel was saying is that since they budgeted that amount of money, they just spent that amount of money. And that's the way a lot of times that it goes with any type of budget, be it a personal budget, a business budget, a government budget, whatever. If that money is allotted, it gets spent. So I'm going to show you what I do instead of budgeting that I think enables me to not spend even as much money as I would if I had it budgeted and not have to put up with the hassle of doing a written budget every single month. So I have this system that I use, and it's not even like I thought it out ahead of time and just, and came up with this and said, I'm going to do these 3 or 4 things and that's going to replace a written budget. It's just things that I started doing that I thought about when I wanted to make this video, and I wrote them down because it has worked for me long term throughout my entire life. And the number one thing that you need to do if you don't use a budget, even if you do use a budget, is that you need to pay yourself first. And that's one of those cliche personal finance things that, you're like, oh, okay, well, I get paid, so, they're paying me first. But once you get that money, regardless of what it is, if it's a paycheck, if it's some sort of windfall, like the stimulus checks like that we've been getting, if your mom sends you a check for your birthday, rental proceeds, just stuff from money from side hustles, take a portion of that money and invest it, save it, and invest it so that it can grow for you for your future. For example, in my work-sponsored retirement program, I put 8% of my pre-tax earnings into that program. In addition to that, I take 20% of all of my post-tax money and I put that towards individual investments that I have made on my own. In addition to that, I have money invested in real estate, and I take 100% of that real estate profit and I invest that into those individual investments. That way, I'm making sure that I pay myself and that I have money working for me for my future so that in the future I don't have to work. And that will allow you to really build up your pile of cash and, focus on growing your money over time. The second thing that I do is I try to keep my expenses as low as I can. I've done this over time by keeping my mortgage as low as I can and trying to make that the only debt that I have. Now, there are some times that we do buy vehicles and other things on credit, use loans, and then I am able to keep my money invested in markets and make the difference in returns from the money in the market versus how much interest I'm paying on the loan. But when we do that, we only do one at a time. So it's not like we go out and we buy two vehicles, an ATV, a boat, an RV, and put a pool in all at the same time. I try to keep that expense that I have to put out every month for debt obligations at the minimum amount possible. Like I said, right now we only have our mortgage, and I never intend to pay that off early because of that spread between my 2.875% mortgage rate and the 10% plus that I'm making with that money in the markets. In addition, I don't have hardly any paid subscriptions to things. I don't have any recurring costs other than basic utilities. We don't do cable television, satellite television, anything like that. Just gas and electric, water and sewer. And then I also buy Spotify Premium. That's my one little subscription splurge because I hate trying to listen to the radio and I don't like the commercials in Spotify regular. So I pay the $9.99 a month for Spotify Premium. When I do buy things, I make sure that I shop around. So I'm trying to get the best value for stuff. I shop at stores like Aldi instead of Kroger or whatever your major grocery retailer is in your area. And I typically just buy the store brands because they have the same quality, the same taste as the name brand items. Essentially, I just try to live my life as thrifty as possible. And I know a lot of folks would like to use frugally, but I don't think that's where I am on the spread from spending insanity down here to minimalist. Meet Kevin does a great video on this where he says that there is a spread between essentially like extreme spending, just spending but thinking about it, being thrifty, being frugal, and being a minimalist. And I think I hit right here on thrifty, where I do like to buy things, I do like items and stuff, but I want to get the best value that I can on them. And so that is what I do for my budgeting, is I just try to spend consciously on the things that I want to purchase and make sure that they're things that I really want, I really need, and that I get the best value that I can for the money that I'm putting out. And the third thing that I do, instead of necessarily budgeting, and this just works to increase the amount that I have every month in what would be on your income side of your traditional budget, is I just always focus on increasing my income. And I don't want to say that I'm never satisfied, but I just always try to find ways to get a little bit more, 1, 2, 3%, or if I can really increase my income, I would do that as well. But I focus on trying to just get increases at work, for example, through just typical raises and things of that nature. If you can work to get a bonus, if you have some sort of performance bonus, go for that. I invest in the stock market so that my money works for me in the future and in the present as well. I invest in real estate so that I can diversify my investments. I can get semi-passive income from there. I get appreciation on buildings and various tax breaks for investing in real estate. And then I try to create other passive income streams, such as this YouTube channel, such as my other YouTube channel where I do outdoor stuff. That's Rugged Adventures, if you wanted to check that out. But I just always focus on increasing my income so that I have more money available to either spend on the things that I want or save and invest for my future. And that way, it again continues to increase that income side of what would be the traditional budget, or in this case, just my way of budgeting and spending money without writing it down. When I do spend money, I try to spend consciously. And what I mean by that is I try not to purchase impulse items, either at the store checkout, on Amazon, wherever I am. I always try to think of, will this enhance my life? Will this fix some problem or need that I have? Do I really want this? Do I really want the item or experience or vacation or whatever? And there's nothing wrong with buying things that you just want. Nothing has to just be just to satisfy your basic needs or some particular need or whatever. But I always like to think of, is this just retail therapy? Do I just feel like I want something or I need something because I'm bored or I'm not satisfied with my life at the moment or whatever, and I'm just purchasing something to get that quick dopamine hit of buying stuff. And I always like to think of the purchases that I make of not in how many dollars that it's going to cost me, but in how many hours of my life is this going to cost me. Because if you think about it, if you want to buy a $100 item, and that's really not that big of a deal anymore, but purchasing a $100 item, everything that you want to buy seems to be $100. But if you're a $20 an hour type of guy, so that's going to be your $40,000 a year type of person. If you want to purchase that $100 item, you're looking at 5 hours before taxes to get that item, and you're probably looking at closer to 7 or so hours once you take into account taxes. And if you contribute to like a deferred comp type of thing, you're looking at about 7 hours. So to buy that one item for $100, you're going to work an entire day at whatever job that you do for your 8 hours in order to be able to afford that one thing. And that really puts into focus what things cost and if they are worth the time that you have to give up to pay for those. So just when I spend, and if you don't want to use a budget, this is what I recommend to you. Think about the things that you're buying. Try not to buy impulsively. Just try to buy the things that you really think will work for you in your life, will enhance your life, or will, fix some problem or need that you have in your life. The one thing that you may want to write down or keep track of is your expenses and where your money is going. This way you can see if there's any sort of trend or area that you may want to tighten up in your spending, and will allow you to be able to focus and stay on the track of that conscious spending and not making impulse buys or buying stuff that you don't really want or need. Now, this isn't to say that written budgeting is bad or whatever. It just doesn't work for me. I would never be able to consistently stick with it and write out a budget because, for one, I just don't feel like it. In addition to the other problems I have as far as not having a set amount of income per month and yada, 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 whatever. But there are some of you out there that do need to have a budget, that will not be able to do this or whatever, and there is nothing wrong with that. Some people do need those spending walls so that you don't end up going off the rails with your spending. If you need to do that, no big deal. But if you're like me and you can't stand doing a budget, this is a way that you can use to keep your spending under control, to continue to earn more than you spend, and to continue to save and invest for the future. So guys, if you got some value out of this video, I would appreciate it if you would smash that like button for me. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're not a subscriber yet, please subscribe to this channel, grow your wealth, increase your success, put you on the road to financial freedom. I appreciate you guys watching today, and I will see you on the next one.